story. It's horrible, but I want to be able to get the word out, and I want to be able to give all the information out as far as the GoFundMe page. I want to help the family. I want to help the friends and do whatever I can, and I'm sure my listeners want to do so as well. His fiance is joining me in studio right now, and I'm very thankful that she is here. And I know it's difficult. I can't even imagine how difficult it is on her. But Rosalie McDermott Thai is joining us right now in studio to talk about Truong. Rosa, I do appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I wish it was under better circumstances. Let's get a little background first from you. How long have you lived here in Las Vegas? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Also, like me, you've been here 20 years. What do you do for a living here? Oh, okay, cool, cool. Um, let's talk about something pleasant if we can to start. The first time you met him, I'm curious. The first time you met Trong, tell me about that.
It was through volleyball. I was coaching a volleyball team, and he was look, and he coached volleyball as well.
Mhm.
So we just kind of met through there, and then
That's cool.
just kind of build a friendship through volleyball. I would see him at like the volleyball games and the tournaments and stuff like that.
Isn't that how some of the best relationships are? I feel like I'm not in one right now. There's a lot of reasons for that, but through friendship to start, right? You get to know somebody, you become good friends, and then you get closer to that person, right? Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, that's kind of what happened, and then we just started coaching together.
Oh, he coached volleyball too.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
We would coach together.
So he's good with kids.
Yeah.
Good with kids.
He's very good with kids. Very, the training came out in him, and he wanted to help the volleyball girls.
And from what I've heard from colleagues that worked with him, is that he was so passionate, not just about his job, but training younger people.
Yes.
Right. Did he talk a lot about his job with you?
Oh, every day.
Really? So I'm just curious, like what was like a typical conversation he would have with you? You guys are obviously very close when it came to his policing and what he did for work.
He would just tell me the calls that he went on, and sometimes if I couldn't sleep at night, then I would call him, and then he would just have the phone like in his pocket, so I could just listen to like the traffic stops. And
really,
yeah. And then if it was something that was a little more
that's so interesting,
then he would say, I'll call you right back.
So he's comforting you and helping you sleep, and it's fun for you just to hear him on the job. That's so interesting. Listen, he was on the force for 23 years, so I'm sure he was in plenty of dangerous situations. Did he talk to you about that? I mean, I would imagine there were other times in his policing career where his life was very much in jeopardy, right?
Certain things he would tell me, but then certain things he wouldn't. I didn't know the area for a long time that he worked in, South Central. I didn't know that was the most dangerous area until
around UNLV. You're talking about, it's not the greatest area in the world. Listen, I think for the most part, I know it's probably hard to say this now after what has taken place. We'll get to that, but I think Vegas is fairly safe. Could it be better? Yes, but I think considering like the lifestyle, 24, it could be worse. It also could be better. No question about it. So he's on the force for 23 years. You've known him for 10 years. A few weeks ago, was it just another regular day? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was. I had 2 days before that off from my job, and we were talking about going to California for Halloween. Like he was trying to talk me into going to Universal Studios, but I'm scared. Like I don't do scary movies or anything like that. But so he was trying to talk me into it.
Right.
I think he pretty much had talked me into it. And then that night I said, I was like, I'm going to bed because I got to get up early in the morning because I have to open up the store.
A phone conversation?
No, this was
through text.
No, he was at home.
Oh, he was at home. Yeah. So you're together. Okay, I got you.
So he was sitting on the couch. He was paying the bills, and I said, "Well, I'm going to bed because I have to be up early in the morning." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "And I'm just going to sleep down here on the couch, which is unusual, so I don't wake you up." I told him good night. He said good night, and then I went to bed. And then He didn't wake me up when he left. He usually left around like 9:15 to go to work.
Because he worked the overnight shift. Yeah.
And he didn't wake me up, but that's not unusual either, because he knows that if I'm sleeping, he doesn't
Right.
want to. He doesn't want to wake
So
me
everything's
up.
normal. Nothing's out of the ordinary.
Nothing is out of the. I
Right.
sleep with my iPad on like all night. So if I do wake up, I watch a little bit of the iPad,
Right.
and then I go back to sleep.
Gotcha.
But for some reason, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I just got really restless. I just I'd wake up, iPad still on, and then I just couldn't go back to sleep. I just could not go back to sleep. I played on my phone for a little bit. Just still could not go back to sleep.
Is that unusual for you?
No, usually.
Yeah. So sometimes you're restless. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I get a knock on my door, like the Ring doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
The dog's going crazy. This is maybe like 3 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the knock on the door didn't wake me up. I was already awake. So 3:00 in the morning, the doorbell rings. The dogs are going crazy. I just ignore it because that's what I was taught to do.
Right.
You don't open the door at 3:00 in the morning.
Of course not. That's unusual. Yeah.
And I looked at my phone, and nobody texted me, because usually if it's like a friend or something, they would text me and be like, "Hey, I'm here. Can you open the door?" But I wasn't expecting anybody.
Right.
So it just kept ringing, like maybe for like an hour. And then finally I was like, okay, something's going on here. So I called him. It went straight to voicemail, which is not unusual because
he's at work.
And
you're saying your doorbell was ringing for an hour?
Well, it wasn't like constantly ringing.
But somebody was trying to get to you and you didn't look through the door to see who it was. You didn't.
No, I didn't. I just stayed upstairs.
I got you. Understood. Yep.
That was the plan.
I don't blame you. No, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Especially when I'm home by myself. That's
Understood.
The plan. And then so I called him, and he went straight to voicemail. That wasn't a red flag or anything. And so then I texted him.
Yeah.
I said, someone keeps ringing the doorbell. Can you check the Ring cameras? And didn't hear back from him, which again wasn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And finally a number kept calling me. And the way my phone is set up, if it's a number that's not pre-programmed, or if it's a number that it'll go straight to voicemail.
Right.
So I keep seeing this number calling me, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
who could it be?
Yeah. But I wasn't going to answer it at 4:00 in the morning.
Right.
And then finally I got a text message, and it said, this is Officer so-and-so. There's been there has been an incident involving your fiance, Officer Thai. Can you please come open the door? At this time, I was like, okay, what happened now? Did he get in a car wreck? Did he, hurt himself? Because he has been hurt before.
Right.
He has been hurt, not to where they had to come and knock on my door, but
right.
He had to have stitches.
Yeah.
He had there was one incident where he was wrestling with a suspect at one of the hotels, and he somehow flipped or something, and he hit his forehead on the door jamb. So I mean, he's had to have stitches before. He's so I was just thinking it was maybe a car wreck or
Sure. Yeah.
And then they told me they said that he was involved in a officer involved shooting, and that he was taken to the hospital, but he didn't make it.
I'm so sorry. I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been and still is for you. Did you get any explanation or any details? I know that Joe Lombardo, they held a press conference. My understanding is that it was some sort of domestic violence dispute, right?
It was.
What did they tell you, I guess?
That it was a domestic violence dispute, and that he had walked up to the vehicle and
When you say walk up to the vehicle, the domestic violence dispute was happening in a vehicle. Is that what?
Well, from what I have seen and what they were allowed to tell me was that they had already separated. So two people, like I think it was the mom and the wife, were over here,
right?
And then he was just sitting, in the car.
And the wife, I would imagine the wife probably is the one that called police.
I would probably say it was probably the mother-in-law who did.
So Truong,
that's my guess.
So Truong is one of the first officers to respond.
Him and his partner. Yes.
Him and his partner.
Yes.
And he just walks up to the vehicle, and the guy just takes out a gun.
So one thing you always have to remember and know about Thai is that he was always willing to help you first. It wasn't like he would go in there like guns blazing, and he always was like, how can I help you? Let me help you.
De-escalate, which is what a professional and very good police officer is supposed to do.
He was always like, how can I help? Let me help you. You need a cigarette? Let me get you a cigarette. You want some water? Let me get you some water.
Because that's who he was.
Even in his bag, he would carry. I found cigarettes one day in his bag, and they were the cheap kind too. They wasn't very expensive. And I'm like, when did you start smoking? And he was like, he goes, no. He goes, those are for for people who I come in contact with. If they need to smoke, I can give them a smoke. So he was always just very like, let me help you. How can I help you? Let's not elevate this to another level. And I don't know if you guys have seen the body cam footage.
I have not. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. When he walks up to the car, even though, and he's just sitting there, and even when he walked up to the car, Thai was like, what's going on, buddy? What's going on? Not like, what did you do? Like he was just very calm tone, just like, what's going on, buddy? And then he told him to put his hands on the steering wheel, which he did. And then he started to reach across to grab the guns that he had. And then so Thai was trying to restrain him from that. And then the guy took off, and he just kind of, from what I saw, he just kind of reached out, like just pointed it out the window and just started shooting.
So they get into some sort of quick physical altercation when Thai sees the driver in the alleged assault reach for possibly something, a weapon. And he does what a police officer, and by the way, Thai probably would have been in the right to shoot him in that moment. And I think maybe that's a testament to what a good man he was, is he didn't, in his last moments, he didn't want to escalate it to that point. He's trying to get him to stop reaching. Because if a police officer tells you to put your hands on the wheel, you do what the officer tells you to do. And when you don't do that, that's an easy way to get killed yourself, right? So even in his last moments, he was trying to de-escalate. And then as the driver's driving away, you're saying he puts out his gun and starts spraying bullets. And that's when Thai was struck in the chest, right?
He was struck in the torso.
Or in the torso. It's just awful.
Knowing what I know about guns, because I grew up with them, we're a military family.
Yeah.
I know what guns are. I know, and just being with, my fiance being at Metro and was a gun lover himself.
Right.
I knew, and as soon as I saw what kind of, I can't remember what kind of gun he had, but I remember I
assault weapon?
Yeah, and it wouldn't have mattered if he had gotten hit in his vest or anything. I
don't want to make this into like a gun issue, but I guess I will ask you this, because I've been very strong advocate of getting assault weapons off the streets. I think people like Thai are the ones that need those types of weapons. I do not believe those types of weapons should be sold to the general public, criminal or not. I have always been a strong advocate for an assault weapons ban. And listen, I don't know if Thai would still be alive today if the driver, that criminal, that scumbag, that murderer, if he had a pistol. I don't know. But what I will say is, and I'm not trying to make this political, I'm just talking about guns in general. I don't think those guns should be on the streets. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel the same way, and
Yeah.
we both felt the same way.
And Ty did too. I don't know if this was a gun that was purchased legally or illegally. Guess what? I don't care. They shouldn't be out there on the streets. Heroes should have those types of weapons. Our brave men and women in uniform, police officers. For people that didn't know Truong Thai, um, you knew him just about better than anybody, right? You lived with him for how long?
7 years.
7 years. How do you want people to remember him as? For people that never became in contact with him.
I do have to start off and thank the community. They really came out and supported him. Just from the candlelight visual and things that I see that are being posted on Facebook and everything like that. So I do want to thank the community for coming out and supporting him, because he supported you guys every day.
Yeah.
He was very passionate about his job. He got up every day and walked out that door without hesitation. Loved his job so much that he was working 6 days a week.
Wow. 6 days a week. So he was,
6 days a
to
week.
say he was dedicated would be an understatement,
Yes.
right? He loved his job.
He loved his job. And for being a 23-year Metro police officer, he has done pretty much everything. But because of who he was, he could have had any position that he wanted.
Right.
He could have gone to any station, but he specifically chose South Central and chose that area to work in because he knew that that community needed help the most.
Right. And maybe the media is part of the problem. Maybe even I'm a part of the problem. I try to recognize heroic officers as well when I can, but maybe the media, emphasizes too much on bad cops, right? I mean, George Floyd thing. I mean, for example, I'm sure he wanted bad cops off the streets as well. And I'm sure he had conversations with you about that. But I also believe that there are police officers out there that deserve to be recognized for being heroes as well. Did he, what's his education background? I'm just curious. What, did he go to college or?
No, he didn't.
High school and
just high school and then
just always wanted to be a cop, huh?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Why is that? Did he talk to you about that?
Because he's just very protective, and he felt like, okay, what can I do that I'm able to protect people? And
that's heroic.
And train people and train people to see those red flags, and if it's anything that he could train you about, and he was so passionate about the training, is that he would go on his own and go to like these training seminars and stuff like that, and then come back and and teach it. And that's what we did for volleyball as well. So it wasn't just for
that's admirable.
The police department. It was he just always wanted to be learning, and he always just wanted to be able to teach people. His
family, besides you, my understanding is he has a 19-year-old daughter, right? Any other family here in town that you know?
I believe his dad's here.
Wow, so his dad is here as well. Any interaction with the daughter? I mean, did you have a relationship?
Yeah, we had a pretty good relationship.
Have you guys talked since?
We have not. I'm just kind of letting her have her time. I did reach out to her through text and said, I'm always here if you need me.
That's nice of you.
Just a phone call or a text message away. And she said, I know. And so
that's nice.
I told her if she ever needed me for anything,
of course,
please don't hesitate to call.
That's nice. I want people listening to be able to help as well. Even people that didn't know Ty. I want people to be able to help. Do you have any of that information? The GoFundMe page. How can people get involved, and how can people help the family get through this difficult time?
The GoFundMe is going to be under Help Officer Ty's Family. It's two of my friends who put it up there for me. just because he was the sole provider of our house.
Yeah.
He, he did everything, which in hindsight, maybe I should have been paying a little bit more attention on how to do, on how to do things and stuff.
He just wanted to take care of people, including the people that he loved. Again, another admirable quality.
Yes.
This might be a difficult question for you to answer, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But the person who took his life, you may have a moment in the courtroom where you'll be able to face him and say something to him and make a statement. I know it's kind of early now, and it's still, I can't imagine how difficult it is to process everything. If you did get that opportunity, what would you say to him?
Well, of course, I think everybody would expect me to yell and scream and get angry and get mad. But I think what Ty would want me to do, I think he would want me to say, you know what? It's okay.
Really?
It's okay.
That's what he would want you to do. Wow. Well, I don't know what your thoughts are on, punishment wise. I would imagine he's probably going to be spending decades and decades behind bars. What do you think should happen?
Well, as any other officer who has been shot and killed, we always took the stance of death penalty.
I'm with you on that, by the way. I'm pro death penalty, especially in a case like this. You kill a police officer.
Exactly.
Especially when there's 100% evidence that he did it and nobody else did.
I just don't, I guess the part is like, I'm just kind of trying to understand is that, you know what? You took the suspect took a situation to where Ty would have done anything to help him. He may have, I don't really know how the legal, how it works, but he may have only been like a misdemeanor or.
Well, that's another thing, right? We're talking about, yeah.
But now you took something that was this big.
Right.
And you made it this big.
I don't know if he put his hands on his woman, but if he was willing to take out a gun and shoot a police officer and kill a police officer, I would be willing to assume he probably put his hands on this woman. Could he have spent a year or two in jail? Perhaps. Could he have gotten probation? Perhaps. He could have gotten help. Could have had his whole life ahead of him. I don't feel bad for him at all. The person I feel for, people like you, and of course, Truong, 49 years old, is so young. He was so young. And I would imagine he probably would have been on the force for much longer.
Well, there was no talk of
retirement.
There was.
He was so dedicated. Yeah, so dedicated to what he does. People don't realize how difficult it is to be a police officer. That's why I have the utmost respect for police officers. While there are some bad cops out there, I always try to tell people, if you think a cop is doing you wrong, in that moment, you have to do what they tell you to do. And I think too many people, too many parents, too many young people do not know how to behave in front of an officer.
And it's not only that, I totally agree with what you're saying, but you also need to stop and think about their families, because we allow them to do the job that they want to do.
Right.
We allow them to sign up knowing that every single day he may not come home.
Right.
And having those scared moments where I can't sleep at night because I'm nervous something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But knowing, that's us. That's what we have to put up on a daily basis.
Of course, it's not just the police officer that has to deal with the stress. And by the way, that's another story. I don't think there's enough counseling for police officers. I don't think there's enough support systems in place for officers. I talked to Kevin McCahill about this, who's going to be the next sheriff. Great guy. I like Kevin a lot. And he said when he becomes sheriff, it's incredible. You could, I guess incredible is a bad word, but a police officer can literally see a horrible, heinous crime. It could be a sexual assault or maybe a car accident with a bunch of dead bodies. And then an hour later, they're right back in their squad car. That's not right. That can't happen. There has to be things put in place to help these officers to an extent deal with the things and Kevin's going to address that because that's bad. Police officers see a lot of bad things every day, type of things that you and I don't see. And so I'm with you on that. Has Metro reached out to you? Has anyone reached out to the family as far as counseling, or have they reached out to try to help you in any way, shape, or form?
Well, that's the thing, is that we kept our life so very private, just because. I mean, we weren't even friends on Facebook or anything like that.
Right.
Just because he goes, I'm already a target every single day. He goes, but.
Why do you say that?
Well, because of his job.
So you think you were a target?
No, I don't feel like I was a target.
Oh, okay.
But the reason why we kept our relationship very private.
Because of his job, right?
Was because of his job.
I understand.
Yeah. That's how protective he was.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't want you to become a target as well. So that's
isn't that sad?
That's why we kept our lives very private. Not very many people knew that.
That's really sad.
That I exist, or that
right.
But that I was even his fiance, because we just didn't tell a whole lot of people because we just wanted to keep it very, very private.
That needs to change. I understand why he did that, because he was being protective and being a good person and caring about the people he loved, which is great. It's a great quality, but that needs to change. I mean, police officers should not have to feel like they are targets every day. That's wrong. And I don't know how. It's not going to change overnight. Maybe the relationship between officers and citizens needs to improve, and we need to figure out ways to make it better. But a police officer should not have to get in his car and come home and tell his family that he feels like a target every day. That gets me really angry. And you know what? He's right. I can understand why he feels that way. There's so much hatred towards police. I don't like bad cops, but I say every day the overwhelming majority of police officers, like Ty, heroes. They take their job very seriously. They're professional. And again, unfortunately, in the media, we always hear about the bad cops, but I think we need to hear more about the good cops too. And obviously, Truong was one of those heroes, and he ended up risking his life and took his own life doing what he loved to do best, and that was to protect and serve the community. Can you give out that information again? How can people get involved to help the family and get through this difficult time? I want people to hear it.
The GoFundMe account is going to be under Help Officer Ty's Family. Like I said, it's just a really bad situation. I hope nobody else. Yeah. I'm sure they will, but I hope nobody else has to go through this. But just know that just know that he loved his city, he loved his job, and he would have done anything, and he did do everything that he could. Yeah,
he risked everything for what he stood for, which was protecting people, right?
Yes.
Sounds to me his whole life, even probably before he was a police officer. It's just a great quality that not everybody has. And he had it, whether it was protecting you or other members of his family or the community. And I'm so sorry for your loss. It breaks my heart. When I heard this story, it horrible. And I remember interviewing the wife of a fallen officer 10 years ago. I was telling you off the air, the two officers who were shot and killed at a pizza parlor, and they had a young child, and they're just sitting there in a restaurant, and then boom, their life is over because of madmen. It's just, life is precious, right? And all we can do is tell the people we love that we love them every day. And I guess if there's one good thing to take from it is that, yes, it's horrible that he lost his life, but at least he was doing what he loved to do. And in his final seconds of his life, he was protecting the community. And that's something to always be thankful for. And he will always be a hero. And if there's anything else I can do to help you or the family, please let me know, and please reach out and I'll gladly do that. I do appreciate you coming in under these difficult situation, Rosalie. But like I said, if there's anything else we can do for you, please let me know. And
Thank
I
you.
do appreciate you coming in and sharing those personal stories. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the listeners. Thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that is Rosalie. I'm going to put out that GoFundMe information on our social media so people can get involved with it. And I know I will. I'll be making a donation to help the family, and I hope all of you will as well. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on